you think that was unfair for them to call you
Oh,
sketchy?
for sure. I mean, like, the guys were skeptical of me the second I even walked in there. And then so the guys were just like sketched, and I'm like, you literally looked at me, man. Like, you don't even know who I am.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today I have a special guest with me, Isaiah from Love Island, USA Season 3. And today we're just going to get into the real, because obviously we only get to see an hour every night. So obviously I want to have a talk with you, Isaiah, and know your perspective of things and see things from your point of view, because obviously we don't get to see everything. Let's just jump right into it. Let's just get into the juice. Let's skip the kind of boring questions. Let's just get into the juice. So obviously you came in there, big entrance. How are you kind of feeling about the potential of your Love Island journey coming in at that exact point that you did in the villa?
I mean, to be honest, I thought I was put into one of the hardest positions, being like a guy that's walking in solo. I mean, when I got in there, it was just me solo alone, and then everyone else was in a couple. And so coming into a situation where even if people were in couples that weren't like romantic in friendships, they at least established a good bond with each other for the first couple weeks. So I was not only trying to like find a connection with a girl, but I was also trying to, form bonds with, the guys, form bonds with the girls that I didn't have connections with. And that was just tough because everyone else was so tight knit. And so I guess coming into it, I was just like, I thought that it was definitely a harder experience, I think, for me right off the bat than it was for most, simply because I was, a solo person coming in, and I had to like really fight for what I wanted and fight for a connection. And it's hard for you to grow an organic connection when you're really trying to fight for something within like 2 or 3 days. So I just thought it was pretty difficult on my end. I mean, it was an awesome entrance. Everything of it was like amazing, but the logistics behind it was pretty difficult for me to like really formulate like an authentic connection with someone.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because when you came in, I thought you were pretty confident.
I mean, I was confident, but I see, like, after having conversations and like vibing with some of the girls, it wasn't that I wasn't confident in myself. It was just more like I want to be my most authentic self, and I don't want to fake anything that's not there. And so my biggest thing was that I wanted to open my mind to, making connections with girls I might not make connections with in the past. And so that was a growing lesson for me, at least in this situation. But even though I opened my mind so much, or at least tried to, it didn't mean that I was going to actually make a genuine connection with someone. So, I mean, the connections I did have were building, but it's just so hard to do that in such a short period of time. And for me, it was hard to like really like show affection and show like me really liking someone just off of like the little time I was there and the little time that I knew them.
So yeah, that kind of makes sense. So coming into the show, obviously you kind of have a limited, like you suggested, you have a limited pool of options. So do you think sometimes it's, when you're coming in, are you thinking, can I make this work with this certain person? Or, should I just not even bother if I don't have that initial attraction? But then kind of thinking, well, this is a show, I have to stay on it. How does the thought process work?
Definitely battling between. I'm battling between. I mean, the whole point of moving forward is to be in a couple. You can't just move like forward solo, and so you have to find a connection with someone. Whether that's a really strong friendship where you decide, both of you, that you're just gonna pick each other as friends, or that's an actual legit connection. Going into the show, you already know like how the show's panning out. Yeah. You know what you're kind of getting into, so it's like, you have to be open-minded, and you know that you have to like put yourself out there in ways that you usually wouldn't. But I was able to see 2 or 3 episodes before I went in. And so I could kind of gauge and like, okay, who is cool? Who do I think is my personality, my energy? But at the same time, you don't really see everyone for who they exactly are from just the edits you see, on TV, because there's so much more behind the scenes and so much more like stuff that, really makes a connection, makes like, it shows the whole picture of an actual person. And so, I guess coming in, I tried to like keep myself open and tried to focus on like, making a connection because you have to. But at some point it's like, it's pretty difficult to push past something that's not there.
So coming in, you're figuring out how to like form a connection. It kind of seemed
Yeah.
like pretty quickly it narrowed down to Amy, Roxy when she was still there, and Cash.
Yes.
With your process, it kind of felt like for every single girl, like even within the challenges, it was very forward, kissing everyone, and the kissing was a bit like dramatic, picking people up and stuff like that, very elaborate. Why did you decide to take that method?
Well, when it comes to games and challenges, I don't see that as anything that has meaning to anything. So, like with the games, like you can't just not participate.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that's kind of like, you go big or go home. And so, I mean, I just took it as like a fun opportunity to have fun and do the game right and do the challenge right. And I'm competitive too, so I want to win. A challenge. Like who doesn't want to be who won a kissing challenge? Like it's kind of like bonus points a little bit. So like when it came to that, like yeah, I went all in. But if you really look at it from the outside in, like the only person I ever like kissed was like outside of that was Roxy and Shannon. I mean Roxy and Cash. And so Cash happened right before we coupled up, so we kind of established some sort of a connection. I kissed Roxy to see if I had any sort of connection with her, because like I didn't really know if I had like more of a connection than a friendship with her. And so on our date, I thought it was perfect time, like give her a kiss, see if I'm feeling something more with her, and like I can move forward with it. And just after that, for me, it just like didn't click. And so like at least then I had certainty and clarity on that, like I wasn't going to probably move forward with Roxy. But when it came to like, being invested with all like, the heavy like challenges and, kissing and all this stuff, like that's just like part of like being on Love Island. Like everyone's doing that. Everyone's participating in challenges and games. But when it came to like outside of those, I wasn't really like aggressive by any means. I think I was probably less myself when it came to like the physical touchness, at least with the time I was there for sure.
Because to me in the edit, it kind of just seems like you were very forward with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I didn't watch all the episodes, but like if you do, I mean, yeah, it looks, if you see like me and Cache scene, like yeah, that looks pretty like forward and like dramatic, but at the same time it was a game.
Yeah.
You see like the kissing booth, like maybe like dramatic and like big and deep, but like it was a challenge. Like the car wash challenge, like all that stuff was like, and a lot of it was the kind of the girl picking me. It wasn't like me picking a girl. And so like I was just like going along for the ride and like putting my best foot forward. But when it came to like everything outside the challenge, I didn't really I wasn't too forward, at least physically, with like any of the girls.
I see what you're saying with like obviously it's a challenge and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I will say that the kisses were very intense. So I feel like there's like peck, there's a snog, and then there's picking people up, kind of throwing them around. So my thing is, when you were doing that, even though yes it was a challenge, did you not kind of think in the back of my head, will the other girls that are interested in me feel a type of way about the intensity of the kisses that I'm giving in the challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so when we had, for instance, I didn't really know what I was getting into until my first challenge, and that was the kissing booth. And that things progressed like more and more and more as it went through. So like Giovanni went first in the kissing booth, and after you would go, the girls would rank you like on how good your kiss was, but they would describe the kiss.
Yeah.
They would say like, hey, like, I like this kiss because it was this, this, and this. But like some girls may be like, it didn't last long enough.
Yeah.
So as each guy went, the kisses got more and more intense.
Yeah.
And so, like, and it became like, we kind of established like this intensity all around. And so I was the last person to go.
Yeah.
So I had to like match the intensity, if not elevate it, for me to win. And then, so like that intensity kind of stuck within the dynamic in the group. And so like kind of just like leewayed into different challenges and games. And so like, yeah, I mean, it definitely was intense and whatever, but I mean, that was just kind of how the dynamic that we created, I think, for the most part.
Okay. So then,
That makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. So then, kind of moving in now, the first recoupling that you were involved in, Amy, you couldn't have chosen her even if you wanted to. But if Amy was an option that you could have chosen, that recoupling, would you have chosen her?
I think Cash was my number one. So I don't think regardless I would have chosen Cash. And that's simply because I was getting mixed. I knew Amy liked me, but I was getting these mixed vibes back and forth from her because one, like I had a conversation with her where we talked about like earlier on before Cash even came in the picture. I was like, hey, if like I was recoupling right now, I'd choose you. And she's like, I would do the same. So we established like kind of this like 100% like connection with each other. And then like drama went down and she told me that she was 50-50 with me and Jeremy. So I'm like, wait, you like told me that we were 100%, but now you're 50-50. And then she was kind of like, she's kind of like just teeter-tottering. So I'm like, okay, I didn't really respect, that. I wanted some sort of certainty.
Yeah.
And Cash was trying, she was direct, she was straightforward, and she was giving me like that she was invested in me. And so, and Cash is like, everyone loves her for a reason. And so like, I thought like we could have a really good vibe. And so for me, I just thought at the time, the best option for me to pick was Cash and to give her my attention and energy. So I guess if I went first on the recoupling, I still would have picked Cash.
So then after that recoupling, obviously you and Cash had a kiss to cement the coupling, and then Amy was visibly upset. Obviously after you just said she was saying that she was 50-50, were you confused about like her emotive reaction?
Oh, for sure. I mean, she had more going on than just being upset with me. She was obviously upset with like the narrative of Jeremy and whatever. I think the narrative of Jeremy made her emotions more heightened on me. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt on that. But like, I definitely was surprised. I just didn't think that. I thought, okay, well, I coupled up with Cash, like it just makes sense for me to, give my effort towards her. Like she deserves that. And so like, I didn't think like to not kiss Cash, like it just wouldn't cross my head. So, I mean, I felt bad for her and I cared that Amy's emotions, I care about her emotions. I care that she feels good. So like, that's why I had a conversation with her shortly after that happened. But I definitely was taken by surprise that she was upset with me for sure.
Yeah. In that conversation, I also kind of noticed that she was kind of putting the blame more on Cash. Did you notice that?
I did. I mean, honestly, I didn't understand it either. I mean, a lot of things didn't make much sense in that. It's like there was drama that like made no sense.
Yeah.
There was perceptions of me in the villa made absolutely no sense. Like I'm cool with like totally accepting my flaws or faults and whatever, but like the situation I was put in, and I don't like I looked at all my actions I'd taken and all the things that I said to the girls and everything like that. Like I truthfully to this day don't think I did anything wrong. Like it was just in a position where I needed to get to know so many different girls, and like I know I'm kind of straying away from your question, but I needed to get to know so many different girls, and this is very tough for someone to be so direct about a girl that they don't even know they're super into yet.
Yeah.
And so like it was so Amy's emotions when it came to like me and Cash, and like other girls' emotions when they came to a bunch of other stuff. Just a lot of it didn't make much sense to me, to be honest. So, but that's the nature of like, I guess being in an environment where emotions are heightened.
Yeah, and there's like nothing else to do in there. So obviously you were kind of talking about how you don't think you did anything wrong, which kind of leads me on to my next point, which is also what the edit kind of made you look a bit shady. With after you recoupled up with Cash, you kind of had a talk with. Well, what we saw is that you had another talk with Amy. After you had a talk with Cash, where you told Cash that you were like completely invested in her, and yes, you still had interest in Amy, but you wanted to focus on them. And then you went to Amy and said that you were completely invested in her. And then we saw a little edit with the girls basically saying how you're saying the same thing to everyone. Mm-hmm. So, could you?
Yeah. So that was okay. There's definitely a miscommunication that Cash and I had, and like this. also like a lack of understanding completely. So like I told from Cash from the beginning that I wanted to, keep our options open. Like I'm feeling you the most, whatever, but like we're gonna keep like an open mind, and so I told her that. We had that conversation. We went to the balcony, but I also said to her that like, yeah, I'm gonna put my effort into you. Like I'm invested in you. So like just because, so there's like an understanding there. It's like, okay, yeah, we're not dating. We're not like in a relationship. We're just getting to know each other. And I feel that in order for us to have a solid relationship, I need to give my effort towards you, But with that being said, it wasn't like I was closing my mind off to other people in the villa. It wasn't mean like I was closing my mind off to anyone else coming to the villa. That's why I had the conversation with her, telling her that like, yeah, I'm going to keep my mind open, But so that's where my mind would be at. My actions would be towards Cash. So like, because I could have done the whole thing where my mind was open and then my actions were open. That would have been really messy, because I could have been like, oh, going for Amy and Cash at the same time, and that just wouldn't have done anything good. That would have made a mess pot. So I told Cash that, and when I talked to Amy, I said, Amy, like, just because I have a couple of a Cash doesn't mean like I lost any sort of like feelings for you. It doesn't mean it just vanished, like, and then just because I had that conversation with her didn't mean I was like saying I wanted to go for her. But Amy went to Cash, stirred the pot a little bit, told Cash what I told Amy, which anything I said, I knew I didn't think would ever be taken in a wrong way, because I know that everyone talks and everyone sees what's going on. And so Cash came to me that night and she's like, I don't understand. You just said that you're all invested in me, and now, you told Amy that you're open to her. I said, no, like when we talked to her, we said we'd be open. And then Cash like, well, I thought you meant open for other girls coming to the villa, not ones here. I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, if I'm open to other girls coming to the villa, why would I be open to girls here? So like there was a miscommunication there. And then once me and Cash talked a little bit, I was like, you know what? I don't want to deal with the drama. I'm just going to like literally just focus on you, and that's going to be it. And then the next day I talked to Amy. I said, hey, you told Cash this. Cash had a conversation with me. Now I had a conversation with Cash, and it's just best for me to focus on, putting my effort into Cash to see if it's going to be something that's going to work. And I said, I still have my feelings for you. I still whatever, but like right now, like me pulling you for chats, me like going to do all these things with you, it's just not fair to Cash. It's also not fair to our potential relationship. That's what I had the conversation with Amy with after the conversation with Cash. So everything was very direct. Everything was, it was just miscommunication, but like I still wouldn't have done anything differently, because I felt I wasn't like this with Cash. I wasn't like this with Amy. So by no means was I was like going to close my mind to other options. Like I was 3-4 days into knowing these girls. Like I could form a connection with, Olivia 3 weeks in, because I finally realized, oh, this girl's pretty dope. Like it's just like the nature of like the villa, how the villa works.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely portrayed as I was just like all over the place and kind of like not saying the right thing back and forth and playing games. And that's not, honestly, that's not true.
Stitch you up a bit.
It's not true. And also at the same time, the second I picked Cash, she was so skeptical of me, which really actually kind of was upsetting to me, because one, like if I didn't pick her, she would have gone home. So at least I would have like expected some sort of like, I don't know, like thankfulness that I chose her. I mean, I chose her because I wanted to like see if we could have a coupling, but I thought like she would have some sort of respect that I chose her because, she could stay, And the second I chose her, she's like, I don't think you chose me as your number one. I think you just chose me because like I was the last option. And I'm like, this makes me feel like you're not thankful that I chose you. And so like right off the bat, she was just skeptical. I'm like, what did I do to make you feel skeptical?
Do you think that do you think that was actually her being skeptical or her being shady, like putting the doubt in there so she could run away after? What do you think?
No, she was being skeptical.
Okay.
But it wasn't fair to me to be skeptical. I don't think she's a shady person. I think she's awesome girl. I think definitely love her. But I think she was dealing with stuff in the villa before before I came, and she attributed her past experiences to me, and that wasn't fair to me in that scenario, in my opinion. I would have liked like for her to be, fully invested and trustworthy of me, not just skeptical. Like I didn't think I had to prove myself. I didn't do anything wrong, so why do I have to prove myself?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I get that. I feel like that's kind of a running theme with Cash. She kind of second guesses things a lot, and she always just kind of feels like whoever picks her, is just using her as a placeholder. I don't think it was necessarily you.
Yeah, I mean, I literally I know I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I will totally admit to doing something wrong, and I did multiple times. Like the only thing I know I did wrong was not go to Roxy right off the bat and tell her my feelings had changed. I waited a little bit too long to do that. And I admitted to everyone, like, yeah, I probably could have done that a little bit better. At the same time, there's so much going on in the villa that people don't see that it's tough to have those conversations just like right off the bat. But I mean, like I said, I'm a pretty, like I like to, admit to my faults, like to grow from them. I just don't think I could have done anything different.
Yeah.
In this.
Because we did see like quite a few people in there, like, say that they thought you were sketchy. Do you think that was unfair for them to call you sketchy?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like the guys were skeptical of me the second I even walked in there. And then, so the guys were just like sketched. And I'm like, you literally looked at me, man. Like, you don't even know who I am. You don't know like what my family is like. You don't know what my history is like. You don't know like what I do for a job, like what I do, like what I've done in the past to like help people, like what my past relationships are like, so if you don't know any of that about me, like, how do you know if I'm sketch, and then the girls, like Shannon just made up a rumor, and she just stirred the pot. I got to
Shannon
see that
is messy. Shannon is so messy.
But like, and I don't appreciate it at all, but like, that's just not the case. Like, I don't know. I'm not a sketchy person. I don't think. Like, I'm pretty straightforward, and I care about people's feelings. I definitely cared about the girls' feelings and everyone in the villa. So it definitely hurt, like when that was a narrative that was created in the villa, because I was like, I'm just trying my best,
Would you say anyone in the villa is sketchy?
I mean, what Shannon pulled was very sketchy. I don't know if it was because of other motives, like, because we had multiple conversations. I don't think they aired, but like, where she didn't want to go for me because every girl wanted me. She didn't like. She doesn't want to have a guy that every girl can have. I'm like,
we did kind of see that.
Okay, so yeah, there's things like that, and I don't know if like she just like was like, screw it, I'm not even gonna worry about this guy anymore. I'm just gonna worry about Josh. So let's just stir the pot with him. I don't know where her head was at. I don't want to accuse. I mean, everyone accused me for something that wasn't true. So I don't want to accuse something to someone else and be a hypocrite. Like who knows if like they're sketch or not. I think that like this is an environment where, it's just not normal. It's not a normal environment. Yeah. You're time. You don't even know what time it is. You don't even know what day it is. You don't know anything. So like, people can do sketch things. Doesn't mean they're a sketch person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sketch things were done. And, I think definitely some people care about themselves more than they care about others. But I couldn't say that there's one person there that I'm like, yeah, totally sketched and like, didn't like him or her. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to Cash again, where do you feel like when would you say was the breakdown of the relationship?
I mean, she was very affectionate with me right off, like right when we coupled up. And that was just like, I started getting really uncomfortable with that. And I'm a very touchy-feely guy. Like one of my top love languages is physical touch. And so the fact that it was like making me uncomfortable was kind of a red flag to me, that like, okay, well, I should like this, but I'm not. So like, red flag. And then because I was uncomfortable, I wasn't being myself. And so it was like, I was kind of like trying to force things. I felt really uncomfortable. And I just felt out of place. Like things were kind of being forced and moving so fast. And even like in bed, like she's a very big cuddler and everything. It's not a bad thing. Like, I love her to death. I just personally felt uncomfortable. And then like the next day was kind of super awkward. But then she started to get like kind of sad, and then it's because she was dealing with feelings for Cinco. Like this entire time, she was dealing with like past feelings for Cinco. So like that also wasn't very fair to me either. But it's a different combo. But anyway, she started to like kind of, it just, our dynamic was weird. We'd say hi, and it wasn't like a flowing like relationship. And then she expressed to me about Cinco. I expressed to her that like, hey, like we should probably do the friendship thing because it kind of feels forced whenever. And so like it was probably like a day and a half in, 2 days in.
And then obviously the new boys came in, and then Wes comes in, and he's a fresh new face coming in, and he's after Cash and Amy. How were you feeling?
Honestly, I didn't feel any type of way. Like I just didn't have that strong of a connection with either or. It wasn't like something where I felt like I needed to be protective or like I needed to be jealous or anything like that. Like, I think that, I was in a space where I wanted to have an open mind. And so if that's the case, then like, I can't not let Cash have an open mind. I can't concern myself with Amy, not even coupled up with her. Like I personally just want to make friends with Wes. I just wanted to be friends with him. Like, I cared about making like, good connections with everyone that came in the villa. So like right away I went and talked to Wes, talked to Slade. I turned out like Slade is like one of my like better buddies now. Like, he's such an awesome guy. I think Wes saw maybe me as like some sort of obstacle. So like we didn't get to connect as well as I would have liked. But at the end of the day, like I didn't really care. I mean, I just cared that everyone was happy. And so if Amy's happy, if I can't give Amy what she wants and she's happier with Wes, great, go ahead and do that. Like, I was totally cool with it. If Cash, same with Cash, like whatever. I just didn't want to be inauthentic, and I would rather have been authentic and gone out early like I did than to fake something just to stay on, the show.
So at that point, were you not kind of thinking about your position?
I mean, I was. I think it became more real for me once Wes and Slade went on dates, and then Cash and Amy seemed to be very happy. Like, they had a great date. So I'm like, oh, well, that's not very good for me. And so I kind of just became introverted because like I was just like, and also I'm not an introverted person. This was a lot to deal with. But I don't know. It was just like, I was just really battling with like, it's hard to like make a connection with they had 6 or 7 girls. So like, just a forced connection. So if it's not there, it's like, well, this sucks. But also on top of that, the girls that are interested in me are now interested in some other guy. It's like the thought goes through, okay, well, now it's probably pretty real that I could be going home. So yeah, it came to my mind. It was definitely like a stressful time, but at the same time I had peace with it.
So you don't wish you were a bit more active at that point? Because you could tell you were being laid back.
I mean, it wouldn't have been my true self. So I would rather have like, I mean, yeah, sure, I wish I was still there, but like, if I was more active and pursued Cash more, like it would have made both of our lives more hell. And maybe she wouldn't have had like as good of an experience right now, or like led to something better for her if I wouldn't have laid back. Like, I truly cared like about everyone in the villa, and I wanted them to have a good experience. And like, I cared, I had one too, but like, anything forced in my life has never been good. And so like, I just couldn't force anything.
So when the text finally did come through, did you have hope that you would be picked by someone?
Not really.
No, you were already packing your bags in your head.
Yeah, I mean, it just would have been a scenario. So like, if Amy would have went before Florida and Amy happened to pick Jeremy, then I would still be there, because then Florida would have picked Corey and Cash would have still picked me. And so like, because the connection with Cash to me was greater than Cash and Wes, and the connection with Florida and me was greater than the connection with like that in Wes. So if like Amy wouldn't have picked Wes and she would have went first and picked Jeremy, I would have still been there. So that was the only scenario that could have panned out to where I would have stayed. Other than that, I knew Cash was going to pick Corey as a friend over me. And then knowing that, I was screwed. So yeah, I guess I didn't really have much hope.
So you knew that Corey and Cash were closer than you and.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Cash about that in bed the night before, and I asked her about it, and she said that she would pick Corey over me as friends, and that definitely was kind of hurt. But at the same time, I just got to respect people's decisions, and no one really owes anyone anything. This is every experience that they all deserve to be there for. So it kind of is what it is.
In terms of friends, who would you say were your buddies in the house?
The closest friend I had was Will, for sure. Just really nice, genuine dude. He always really cared. He gave good advice. I was so sad when Slade left. That dude was just such a good dude. I know he would have been I would have been talking to him all day, every day. Just such a good guy. We made a good connection, and we still talk right now, the second he got out. I unfortunately didn't get to make the connections to the strong point that I wish I would have, just because of the whole dynamic and the little time that I was there. Well, it's not really little time, but littler time than most when I was there. And so I started to build connections with, all the guys more and more and more. I think I wish that Shannon and I never had a dynamic in the beginning, because I think Josh and I would have been closer if that was never the case. Josh is a good guy. They're all good guys. It was just I just didn't have enough time to build those connections really strongly. Girls, I think the dynamic too, they all were interested and then they all weren't. So it was just kind of over the place, and they also had these perceptions of me, and which made no sense. But I thought Cash, obviously amazing. Cash Florida was actually a really awesome girl. Talked to her. We established a friendship off the bat. And honestly, Roxy was just, I really was sad that she had to leave, because she was probably one of my favorite people. Yeah, when it came to those people were my favorites.
And obviously, are you caught up now? Have you caught up with everything?
I mean, I know what happened in the last episode, and I know that. Yeah.
So obviously, Casa Amor is coming.
Yeah.
I feel, because it's still pretty much early days, I feel like pretty much most of the people's heads are going to turn. Is there anyone who you don't think his head would turn?
No, you're pretty correct. I think most people's heads will turn. I think the strongest head is going to be Will. So Will, I think, will keep a level head. But right now, Jeremy doesn't really have anyone he's focusing on at all. So obviously he's going to be open reign. I just don't think, I think Josh and Shannon have been kind of all over the place. So I think both their heads are going to turn. I think, Will's pretty strong. I think Cinco isn't. I mean, I think he can be his head could be easily turned.
Yeah, especially if he doesn't have two girls on him. He only,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a great guy, but I mean, not to say you can't be a good guy to have your head turned, but I can see him having his head turned, and then basically all of them besides Will and Kira, I think, would be good. I mean, I would be surprised, but not totally surprised if Will turned his head, but everyone else is definitely gonna be definitely.
I think Kira will stay solid as well.
Yeah, I think Kira's pretty solid with Will for sure. If anything, Will would turn his head, but I doubt it.
And who are you rooting for?
Will and Kira.
Yeah,
I just think they're just such good people, and I think good people should have good things, and so I think that I'm definitely rooting for them. But everyone in there is good people. I'm rooting for Olivia to find someone. I think she deserves that. She's kind of been strong and showed a level head through the whole thing. I do care for them all, so I hope they all have a good experience. But I definitely think that Will and Kira are going to be able to pull something through.
And obviously, now that you're off the island, are you going to continue your search for love, or you think you're going to have a break?
I mean, before I even got on Love Island, I wasn't heavily searching. I wasn't like going on many dates and whatnot. I think that's why I struggled a little bit on the island. Um, so I think, when I try to force things and search for things so hard, usually it doesn't come to me. So I'm going to be definitely more open than I have in the past, but I'm still going to like do my thing and like hopefully like whatever good scenario will come my way. Like the right girl is going to come my way, and the right girl is going to I don't need to rush anything. So I'm not like actively trying, but like if I found a girl today and like I wouldn't be opposed to it. So because I'm definitely in a space where I'm open to having a relationship and open to being with someone and locking myself down. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I'm wishing you the best of luck. That is the end of my line of questioning.
Sweet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. It was good. I like being able to like do these things and speak on like kind of the reality of things.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one. Bye.